everyone, and welcome to episode 215 of the Canadian Football Countdown, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network. Ryan, Adam, and Trey here with you tonight to preview Week 4 in the CFL, a week with only 3 games on the schedule. So a little bit less to talk about, but I'm sure we'll talk about it for just as long as we always do. We'll talk major matchup storylines, fantasy players to watch, and make our betting picks for each of the games this week. We're also live on a variety of different platforms thanks to presenting sponsor Game Time TV, which you can learn more about by visiting GameTimeTV.ca. We'll take your comments, take your questions in our live chat throughout the night. See a couple of people filing in there already. How are y'all doing tonight? Thanks for joining us. And before we bring in the rest of the panel, as always, want to acknowledge that the Canadian Football Countdown is brought to you from Treaty 1 territory, traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation, as well as from Treaty 4 territory, traditional territory of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Métis Nation. All right, let's introduce the rest of the panel here this evening. I'm Ryan. I'm joined by, first of all, the great Adam Stewart is here tonight. Adam, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. Just managed to get a little bit of work done before coming here on the old farm equipment. Was washing some stuff off, cleaning it off, making it look good. But and then quickly whipped on the old Father's Day hat that was given away at the Rider game in the first one and came on down to talk some more CFL. So, yeah, all good.
I like it. It's a nice looking hat. I got to start getting a hat. I got to get a hat. I feel like y'all are always wearing hats. I have hats. I just don't wear them as much.
I feel so naked with a hat. I have to. I wear my hat all the time at home. I don't know why.
Well, you heard him already. It's the great Trey Colback is here tonight as well. Trey, how you doing?
Boys, I want to show this. I got this in the mail. I officially graduated university. I'm educated. So whoever that joker said I have no credentials, boom, right there, Chad Kelly, number 1, and UFW approved.
I've got one of those too, but it says I know how to negotiate.
Yeah, you screwed me on our fantasy. You screwed me in negotiations on the fantasy. You signed Beatty before I could. So,
well, we'll get into that later on, right, Ryan?
Oh, for sure. Adam's been wheeling and dealing in the CFC Draft Fantasy League. Let's get into things tonight before we start talking about Week 4 in the CFL. Quick mention, as we do normally. If you want extra content or just want to chat with us in between our weekly shows, we have so much extra stuff going on in the CFC Discord community, which you can, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. Which you can join via the link in the episode description, whether you're watching the audio, whether you're watching the video or listening to the audio, the link's in the description there. We have game day threads for every CFL game. I've been putting a lot of extra fantasy content in there. Trey's listing out our betting picks every single week and our totals there. We even have some live interactive drive home call-in shows at least once a week. So feel free to hop into the Discord community and join us there if you want extra content beyond our weekly episodes. All right, guys, let's talk about week number 4, I believe it is, in the CFL. Can you believe it? We're already a month into the season. Still no stats, but we're a month into the season here. And first of 3 games on the schedule is Edmonton in Ottawa, Friday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Adam, what are we looking at for storylines in this one?
Well, I think there's one main storyline that everybody's been talking about all week. But I want to bring up one thing first before we get into anything here. Edmonton fans, be nicer to your social media guy. I mean, the amount of garbage that I've seen posted about the Edmonton Elks, either about their name, about their team, about Victor Chu, about Chris Jones, about everything. Don't get me wrong. Fans have the right to go and vent. But some of these guys, I mean, it's malicious out there in the social media world. Try to be a little bit happier in this world if you can, because, you know, it's a privilege still to have a professional football team like the Edmonton franchise. And I mean, it's a well-storied franchise. I know some guys are upset about that, but that's my little rant for today. Of course, everybody's talking right now about the 0-2 Ottawa Redblacks versus the 0-3 Edmonton Elks. It does not sound, and I mean, I've been trying to watch for an injury report on this to let me know what's going on, but I do believe that Jeremiah Mazzoli is still going to be out in this game, if I'm not mistaken. So it's either Nick Arbuckle. Now let me think about this because I'm trying to get the names right here. Nick Arbuckle could start. I don't think he will. Trey Adams is the name?
Tyree Adams.
Tyree.
And he has been confirmed as the starter for this week.
Tyree is confirmed starting. So I don't know about you guys, but just a quick little brief thing about here. What is it with Jeremiah Mazzoli? Is he coming back this season? What's your opinions quickly on this one?
I'm concerned because it seemed like a lot of the talk was, oh yeah, don't worry, Mazzoli's going to be ready for the start of the season. And then training camp rolls around. No, he's not going to be quite ready yet till after the bye week and ready to go for week 4. And now they're saying we're looking at it on a week-by-week basis, not a day-by-day thing. To me, kind of spells it could be a while before we see Mazzoli come in, which is bad for a team that desperately needs him.
Trey?
No, I agree. And you know what's weird? Thinking back now, a few years ago, because I kept seeing the whole the butterfly effect of that Zach Collaros trade. Who would have thought, if we thought about it then, if we said which guy would be, top in the league and which guy would be struggling to get in the lineup, I probably would have put my money on Zach Collaros back then, right? Even before that little run over Mazzoli. But it's kind of Mazzoli's been the guy. Is this still that hit from last year from plaguing him from the Marino guy? Yeesh. This was his leg, and he's been a mobile quarterback, and I would think it was his plant foot too, if I'm not mistaken. That's a lot of weight. He's a big guy. He's 34, and that's 100 in football years, right? So, yeah, I don't know. And this other guy we've never really heard of, and he's getting the start over Arbuckle, and I don't know. You know what? I would not be surprised though if this game ends in a tie, because if you're going to look at Ottawa's struggles and you look at Edmonton's struggles, neither of them really deserve a win. Looking over the grand scheme of things. So, I feel bad for Mazzoli, but I think it's a quarterback issue across the league. You could probably name 2-3 guys that you really want: Vernon Adams, Collaros, and VA, and maybe Harris. After that, do you really want any of these guys? Mazzoli, I feel bad. He's a good player, but I don't know. Injuries, right?
Well,
what was the phrase you used yesterday when we were chatting, Adam? Something about a stoppable force and a movable object.
This is exactly summing this game up. I mean, one is a truly stoppable force and just cannot be get going, and the other one is just an object that kind of gets pushed out of the way pretty easily here. Although, Ottawa still has some pieces on defense. I mean, it's just the problem is I think they're playing all the time and they're never getting any time to get off the field. Otherwise, I think Ottawa's defense is good enough to win them some games. Edmonton on the other side, boy, I mean, other than the defensive line, I don't know about Edmonton anymore. I'm getting more and more worried with this team. I mean, Chris Jones, again, non-committal. Who his starting quarterback will be yet, unless I missed a tweet or something. I know Jared Dagey, I believe it was taking most of the first-team reps. Trey Ford is back and with the active roster after the cut to Kai Loxley. And then Taylor Cornelius. I mean, that's why I was trying to get with the fans on there on that part. Boy, she does not look good when you're a Edmonton Elk fan and reading some of the comments about Taylor Cornelius. I mean, I hope they don't do Chris Jones's mean tweets because he might actually cry after that one. Ryan, you're the quarterback expert in Edmonton this year. What can you tell us about either Jared Dagey or, in this case, I guess Trey Ford, possibly? They got one more guy in as well, didn't they?
I like your sarcastic comment and subtle dig that I'm the expert on quarterbacks in Edmonton this year when I took Taylor Cornelius in the first round of our fantasy draft. And that clearly did not work out well at all. I dropped him this week, spoiler alert, because it appears that Jarrett Daggy is going to get the start for Edmonton. I mean, Chris Jones, I think I was reading, had a quote today where, somebody pressed him in practice interviews and said, so who's your starter at quarterback this week? And he said something like, why do you never ask who my starter at left tackle is? That's a position on the football field too. We'll have someone start at left
side tackle is important too.
We'll have somebody starting at quarterback, and we'll fill a full roster. To sum it up, but Daggy has been getting the first team reps in practice this week. Trey Ford will be back on the roster because Kyle Oxley got released after his fumble and refusal to go back in supposedly. But I assume it's going to be Daggy as the starter. Cornelius is still the backup, and maybe Trey Ford gets it now in the short yardage plays. I'm not too sure, but I don't know. He said seems like he's still a bit in Jones's doghouse too. So who knows how far into this game before Jones needs to build a bigger doghouse.
I find it interesting. Side note, I find it that you say his name Daggy? Doggy?
Daggy,
I thought it was Doge. Jeez, man. These names, that's worse than Taves with the W. But I find it interesting how two short yardage guys get cut in the same week with Pigram and Winnipeg. And Brew Cup comes in, but that's one of the most valuable positions in the CFL, isn't it? Your third and short guy. Because how many games would but also those guys got stuff. But anyway, man, I don't know about Edmonton. What was the question again? I'm sorry, I'm out of it today. What was the question again?
It's generally what you're thinking about the quarterback situation in Edmonton.
I mean, let's have a fun idea. Make Arbuckle and the other guy play for Edmonton and put Doji and Trey Ford on Ottawa just for the game. See what happens. I don't know. That's all I got. It doesn't matter to me. This game, this game was probably the hardest one for me in betting, which we'll talk about, because if I take a team that's the underdog, I only do it if I believe they could win. And I don't think either team could win this game. So it's so hard to pick.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, on this one here, you look at if Jared Daggy gets in, I think we got to ask our NCAA expert again, Brandon, about him, because he was all over the place in the NCAA. I was just taking a look at that. He was in Virginia. He was in Bowling Greens. He was all over the place. And the only reason I know how to say Daggy, Trey, is because his brother Seth one time was a Saskatchewan Rough Rider quarterback. The Seth Daggy era. It wasn't pretty.
The glory years.
Oh, yeah. That was when Winnipeg started getting rolling.
It's like, what did I was going to say now? Never mind.
I think he actually made the Joe Mack defense look pretty good.
Oh, I was going to say, that's a concern to me, though, if he played in multiple universities, especially if this was 5, 6, 7 years ago before the transfer portal became hot, because that, to me, doesn't show very... I mean, it could, and maybe we do need our NCAA expert on here, but, if a guy is jumping around 3 or 4 teams within max 5 years, that's Pierre-Luc Dubois range, right? And you can't have that.
I will say Nagy looked like the best quarterback in the Elks had in the preseason this year. And actually, when he came in, he did put some offense on the board there. I know one of them was that fluke touchdown right at the end of the game last week. But, 140-something yards, 2 touchdowns. That's probably, honestly, the best, most offense we've seen from Edmonton all year. So,
to be fair, the best quarterback in the New York Jets locker room preseason was Chris Streveler. And, we know what Adam says about that, right? So.
We won't talk about that, but just bringing up the things with Jared Daggy here that I've got. Started in Bowling Green, got transferred to West Virginia out of transfer portal. Then he went and announced that he was transferring to Western Kentucky, and then he went to Western Kentucky, didn't get the starting job, so then he went over to Troy. So,
4 schools.
I don't know.
That's crazy, because at some point, too, you had to sit out for a little bit if you transferred, so that must have been after that, because there's no way... Man, that's crazy. 4 schools in 4 years.
That's not really heard of much. So the other part to go through on this game here is a big part for fantasy. To note, no Eugene Lewis this week for the Edmonton Elks. So if you expected him to get some big points, it ain't gonna happen.
For the next 6 weeks, potentially.
Exactly.
He was put on the 6-game injured list, which was a bit shocking to see. Eugene Lewis might not play this week. Oh, now he's on the 6-game injured list.
Nah, that's a little bit of Chris Jonesmanship, I think, on that one, because, yeah, that guy plays everything right next to the chest. So I'm sure he'll be on a pre-practice roster trying to get better pretty soon. But in the meantime, I think then that means that you probably got some different picks to make here in fantasy, Ryan.
Yeah, if we want to get into fantasy picks in this game between Edmonton and Ottawa, first off, a quick note. The past couple of weeks, I've been giving you 5 fantasy players to watch from each game. We're switching that up a little bit because some games, frankly, there aren't 5 great options that I can endorse. And I found, I was going for a stretch, so to say, with some of those options where it was like, I don't think these are going to be a great one, but this is the 4th or 5th best one in this game. So we're going to narrow it down on some games, or on some games like this one, where I think there are prime opportunities for some interesting fantasy picks. We're going to have a couple more. I believe I have 6 or 7 players to watch in this game for you. And let's start off with wide receiver Justin Hardy. He comes in at $11,500. He's continuing last year's trend of being a high target receiver for Ottawa, 17 targets in the first 2 games for them. So, if you can continue that with Tyree Adams at quarterback, and maybe he can get a little bit more going in that passing game than Nick Arbuckle was able to, I think Hardy could be a potential good play there. He's always going to be one of the most targeted receivers in that Ottawa offense. Sticking with the Redblacks, I also really like running back to Montreal Tuggle this week at $4,600. It seems like he's primed to get his second start of the season. Huge value play at running back. He put up 9 points in week 2 and faces an Edmonton defense that has really struggled against the run. I mean, we saw what AJ Ouellette, Andrew Harris, and Daniel Adebaboye did to them last week, where the Argos just ran all over them there. So I think that is one of the best value plays you can get this week is Demontre Tuggle at running back. And especially because his quarterback, Tyree Adams, threw the ball to him a lot when he came in the second half in their game 2 weeks ago before the bye week. Adams is also a player to watch for me. He's $7,000. He's a cheap quarterback option, one of the 2 cheap value plays for the week. Not much film on him, but he did rush for 19 yards in that last game. And so I like a mobile quarterback for fantasy. Putting up the rushing yards is going to help you there. So I think it's potentially worth taking a shot on him against, an Elks team that hasn't been very good. And same thing with the other side of the matchup. Jarrett Nagy is $6,900 as well. Again, take your pick between these 2 guys. I think Adams seems to be the more mobile option, get you those rushing yards, but it seems like Nagy has the ability to stretch the field maybe a little bit more with his passing game here. Like I said, arguably the best offensive performance we've seen from the Elks so far. Only concern for me would be a short leash from Chris Jones, potentially. If he does struggle early in the game, do they go back to Cornelius? Do they go to Trey Ford? I have no idea what Chris Jones would do, but I think he's another cheap value play this week there. And a couple of receivers of his actually intrigued me this week. No Eugene Lewis makes me feel even more confident about recommending Stephen Dunbar Jr. at $10,900. He was the go-to receiver last week. He picked up 12 targets in that game. I know it's scary to pick any Elks wide receiver right now, but there aren't a lot of great high-priced options in fantasy this week. So at $11,000, if you're looking for a guy to kind of eat up a bit more of your salary because there's so many good value plays, I kind of like Stephen Dunbar as an option and think he could get a lot of targets from an improved passing game this week. Also with Eugene Lewis out, in steps one Maurice French into a starting role this week. He is not listed in fantasy quite yet. I'm hoping he will be by Friday night. He was the breakout player in the preseason for the Elks, and maybe there's a bit of a connection with Jarrett Nagy there. I imagine he's going to be a super cheap play as well, and hopefully somewhere in the $2,500 range, in which you really only need a 5 to 10 point week from him to be worth the money. So I like that play potentially there, and it's a lot less risky than spending up on a big receiver. And finally, defense options. Don't love a ton of them this week. Edmonton's defense is the cheapest one available. They've held their opponents to reasonable point totals the past couple of weeks. until the second half against the Argos, but they did get tired because the offense didn't give them much help. They face a quarterback making his first career start, and they've got some good pass rushers in Jake Seresna and AC Leonard that just haven't fully gotten going yet. So perhaps worth the play there. Probably won't hit your value, but they're the cheapest option on defense where not many teams do. All right, there's your 6 or 7 players to watch in this game from the fantasy side. What about you guys? What do you think? Who do you have your eyes on? Who's your top guy in this game? Adam?
Yeah, I'm taking a look at the left tackle, and I'm going to take Andrew Garnett just to go in. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm not taking Andrew Garnett, although Chris Jones probably would like that. I really like Tuggle this week. He makes my roster just fill in really nicely. I can do some real good flexibility with it because of it. So Tuggle's definitely on my list this week, just because of that. I was tempted to put Kevin Brown in, but I think there's a better high pick option. So I'm just going to leave Kevin Brown out. And I've got him in my regular fantasy for our head-to-head for our private one. Dylan Mitchell, man, he's got to have a game sometime. This is the game. I know he's burned Ryan, so Ryan won't bring him up anymore. But finally, it's going to be Dylan Mitchell's turn, and he's going to blow up for 150-plus yards. I hope. Trey, who do you got this week?
Yeah, in this game, I agree with the Tuggle pick, the value play there at 4.6K. The other than that, I thought it was crazy until I heard Ryan say the Edmonton Elks defense. I kind of like that because I can't imagine too much crazy offensive play is going to happen in this game. And I was between Ottawa and Edmonton. Which defense do I think might have a better game? And I went with turtleneck defense. So we'll see. Better than the Swiss cheese one we have in Winnipeg. We'll see.
I think Ottawa could have the better defensive performance, but they're about, I think, $2,000 more expensive or something like that. So I was like, I don't know if they're going to perform well enough over that. Just to touch on the 2 guys you mentioned, Adam, because I did consider them obviously this week as well. Kevin Brown, the big reason I stayed away from that in my recommendations here is that he didn't get a ton of carries last week, and also Ottawa gives up very few yards per carry, even though they did face Dedrick Mills last week. And who did they face in their first game? William Stanback and the Alouettes. So lots of carries, but not a ton of yards that their defense gave up. And Dylan Mitchell, I wanted to include him, and I think he could have more opportunities with Eugene Lewis out. But you burned me this many times. I'm not going there quite yet this week on Dylan Mitchell. Maybe next week if he performs well. Those are your fantasy picks in this game. Again, a lot of opportunities in a game between 2 teams that aren't very good right now and have a lot of cheap plays available. Let's go over to our betting picks for this week, and let's see if we can figure out who to pick in this one, Trey.
Yeah, real quick, we'll do a recap for the folks at home. For the spread, Ryan and I are 9-3. Last week we both went 3-1. Adam 7-5 went 2-2 last week, but he still Mike might have a better percentage but he missed week 1 at 5-3 and he went 3-1 in the spread. The over-unders where things get dicey. Me, Adam, and Mike went 1-3 last week. Ryan went 2-2. I'm 7-5 overall. Adam and Ryan are 5-7, and Mike 1-4. He got his first one. It's good for him, but
that stupid second half between Calgary and Saskatchewan, things were looking so good. I'm going to be 3-1. You guys are going to be 0-4.
That's what happens, man. It's what happens. Season total, if you follow along and do our bets, if you do $5 on each game, it's a spread, $5 on each over-under, and then the $5 parlay on the spreads and $5 parlay on the over-unders. If you followed me, I'd be at $66.34. Adam would be at $28.47. Ryan, you're about an ant farm in the hole at $17.06. And Mike, we'll just leave that there. But I did do calculations because we do better on the spread. So if you just did the spread betting, you'd be 74.48 positive with me, 68.78 positive with Adam. Ryan, you'd be in the positive at 10.16. Your standings are the same. You just missed that parlay. And Mike would be negative $2.61. So just about an extra large double-double in the hole. Not too bad for having fun. This game,
Edmonton plus 2.5 going into Ottawa minus 2.5. It didn't change, did it? No, it locked earlier, so I thought maybe it was changing. And the over-under at 42.5. This one is crazy. I don't know. They're basically saying it's a pick'em game on a neutral site. A lot of uncertainty. I'm actually going to go with Edmonton just because I want these two teams to remain winless at home. I think it's funny as hell. And I'm actually going to go with the under as well. 42.5 is so low. Oh, no. I'll go over. I'll go Edmonton plus 2.5 and over. Ryan, you tell me how I'm wrong.
So I'm not allowed to abstain from picking this game. That's the final ruling.
No. I'm still pissed off Mike didn't get week 1 in because now my numbers are all messed up. So we're not allowed to miss anything.
Where's my coin?
Sorry, Ryan. No bye week this week.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm trying to find my coin so I can flip it for this. No, I will make an actual pick here, and I'm going to, I think, agree with you on both of these, Trey. I think Edmonton has a lot of the talent there on the roster. They just haven't gotten going yet. I think they're a little deeper talent-wise than Ottawa right now. Ottawa's got more injuries that they're struggling with. If everyone is healthy, maybe I would think it was the other way around, but I will give it to the Elks, and 42.5 is so low. We thought Edmonton was going to be low scoring, and Edmonton themselves put up 30 points last week. So I'll take the over, and I will take Edmonton for the same reason that neither of these teams can apparently win a home game.
Adam?
Well, I'm gonna go with the Edmonton Elks too in this one here. I'm gonna make it 3 in a row. The reason being is the chainsaw that they used in Ottawa had to be replaced because the carburetor's already fouled up and they can't get that sucker to start. So, no, honestly, I think that if you look at talent wise, I think Dylan Mitchell, I think Kevin Brown, I think that Jared Daggy, I'm not sure how long he'll stick in there for. But hey, it might be enough of a lesson for one quarter even for Taylor Cornelius to get hot and get wanting to prove himself again. So you never know. I think Cornelius is going to come in at some point in this game and he's going to light it up again. Maybe not for the whole game, but a couple series anyways. And the defense, I think, is probably a shade better in Edmonton. I really like their defensive line in Edmonton right now still. But that being said, I still think Edmonton will win this one. 42.5 is so low. So low.
That was crazy. Like, I couldn't believe that.
It's Han Solo.
Yeah.
I'm going to go the under. What the heck? You know what? I look at it and I don't know if either one of these teams could get over 20 points. So, I mean,
that's what I was thinking too. Like, but then I also thought, like, how many defensive scores may we maybe get in this with these inexperienced quarterbacks or something? You know what I mean? Or I don't know.
Okay, you convinced me.
No,
I should go
I'm not
the
sure.
over. No, I'll go the over.
Okay.
Heck with it, I'm going the over. Although honestly, this one here is so hard to tell. I mean, it's either going to be a blowout or it's going to be a. I don't know.
Watch this land.
All these toilet bowls.
Yeah, watch this land 22-20 or something, and it would just screws us all over. Like, it just, I don't know. But and we'll get Mike's picks. I'll bug him in the group chat later tonight. He's not missing
20 in overtime, and it goes tie or something.
That's a push that we both get the no contest, boys. Actually, no, we would still win. We get Edmonton plus because they lost by less than 2.5. So we'd be there.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
no, we're fine there. Yeah.
So just one thing here before we go on to the next game, guys, I wanted to bring up because it involves another 3 team, the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Just a quick thought on Chris Edwards. Got a maximum fine today for his push on Austin Mack. Just a quick thought on Chris Edwards.
Trey? You want to go first, Trey?
I think this was blown out of proportion. Honestly, it's football. Like I said in our group chat, I've seen worse fights in slow pitch, and like I've seen, in Winnipeg. And I just, was it unclassy? Sure. Was it not the right move? Sure. But I don't know. You teach these guys from a young age to kill on the football field. I mean, it was unclassy. Sure. Does he deserve a fine? Sure. But he's not getting cut. He's not getting suspended. Like,
I think that was just such overkill on social media. Like, yeah, but is this his second thing? Did he do something? He was the one that fought the fans, right?
Yeah.
See, maybe that's the thing too, that he's a repeat offender. If this was an isolated incident, I'd be like, what is this even about? But I don't know. I think whatever. Take the fine on to Cleveland. That's kind of my thoughts, Ryan.
Yeah, I think the big thing is that we've seen behavior like this from Chris Edwards before, right? Like, you got a 6-game suspension for that altercation in the stands a couple of years ago now. So, now he's goes and does this again. I think that's a big issue. I think it's more of an issue in the locker room than it is maybe I could, see a 1-game suspension for it, but not surprised they didn't as well, because I think we've talked about this before, how Garrett Marino only got 2 games for what he did last year. I think that was, last year. But if I'm Hamilton in the locker room, I'm starting to think, like, as the losing streak grows, do I want that kind of temper? Do I want that kind of attitude in the locker room? Because that's only going to make it worse. So I could see reasoning for moving on from Chris Edwards for that.
Well, I always seen one player that came from Saskatchewan that all of a sudden lost his discipline a few times after we seen what happened with Garrett Marino, and that's Duke Williams. All of a sudden you get Chris Edwards doing some bonehead thing like that. And don't get me wrong. Yes, Trey, I understand that it's kill, but within the 60 minutes. You don't do something stupid after a game. There's prayer circles going on. There's guys shaking hands. There's guys with their kids in the field. No, that's my limit. I get it. I get what
you're saying. It's a bonehead move. I'm not saying he shouldn't have been disciplined. I just think maybe it's his reputation. Like I said, it just got a little too overboard for me. You're not banning a guy from a league because he shoved a guy after the game. Like I think that's, like, especially if you set the precedents from the past with Marino and other guys. There's no way the PA would allow that. I don't think. Well, the good PA. I don't know about the CFL. Well, I mean, the CFL PA is actually not bad, but you know what I mean. The PA is there to defend these guys even when they do stupid things. So, like, I just can't. What even the max fine? Like 5 Gs in the CFL?
Yeah,
I have no idea. They don't report it according to the CBA. So
I know, but like I mean, we don't report salary caps, and we know most of those, right? So, but I just
hardly report stats.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
But
we don't report anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I get it. Like, I was kind of talking about it. I'm like, I just, when I was doing the hockey tournament with Mike, there was 2 hockey teams of 18 unders fighting after the game. It's not the classiest thing in the world, but tempered flair for 60 minutes. Sometimes I want to just get in a fight with Mike when him and I are arguing on this podcast. I get it. I'm not going to do it, but I get it, right? We're all guys here. We get it. We're stupid. We fight. Me and my kids play fight. It's dumb, but I understand the emotion behind it, right? And we don't know. Was the Montreal guy yapping his mouth? Was there something going on? What did he say? I'm not saying it's right, but it's
to me, I think it's a game just because of the repeat offender part and the the fact that that's no. Like, what are you doing, pal? Because it was boneheaded and you shouldn't be doing stuff like that. 1 game is my opinion. It wasn't like he went out and did a Garrett Marino and tried to kill the guy or murder the guy or injure the guy till, he hasn't played yet. So I get where they're coming with this, but to me, it was 1 game. But we got to move on here though to the next game in our crew here. What is our next one? Is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers going to travel down to Montreal for cheap hot dog night? Did you guys see that? $2 hot dogs at Percival Molson Stadium. I was going to ask if they deliver. Probably be told no, but anyways, I don't know why they're doing hot dogs. I mean, Fajardo like corn dogs, I thought, but yeah. Anyways, I think the biggest thing on this one here for Montreal, can they continue their winning ways? I mean, Cody Fajardo's had a pretty good start to this season. He's gotten Austin Mack open. He's had Julian Grant to open a couple times to get some big plays to him. Overall, he's looked pretty decent this season so far, Fajardo. What's your thoughts, guys, on the offense of Montreal? And I guess what are you thinking on that, first of all, the Montreal offense?
Surprisingly decent, surprisingly. Like, I wouldn't put them Toronto, BC, Winnipeg tier, but I thought that would be a drop off. I'm actually really surprised between Harris and Fajardo, like the Trevor Harris and Fajardo, how well they're actually doing in so far with this little switch. Or I thought it was going to be a lot worse. I thought if I was going to put money on it, I probably would have put them getting benched or cut before Cornelius and before other guys, right? So I'm impressed by it, and not like, again, decent 10-8 kind of year, not 15-3 nothing and getting the bye, but I think Montreal can squeak by. But Montreal, Gary Stern seems to be an Argo fan now. That's what he seems to be tweeting about 99% of the time. But anyway, Ryan, what do you think about this Cody Fajardo and Moss? Are they getting along finally, or what?
I don't know. Seems like they're on the same page here. And this was a team I was pretty concerned about because of the lack of depth at wide receiver. I mean, Eugene Lewis was gone. Jake Winicky was gone. They bring in Greg Ellingson. He's on the injured list. Reggie White was their top receiver remaining. He's on the injured list. And so little did we know that Austin Mack would storm onto the scene and be one of the top receivers in the CFL so far this season. And so they've got guys like that have been stepping up there. So, yeah, I've been pleasantly impressed with both this Montreal offense, and I think the defense has also done its part in forcing a lot of key turnovers to, help them out here. And the special teams, too. Didn't Chandler Worthy just have a big kick return touchdown this week? So, Montreal getting some good play out of all facets of their team. But they've also only beaten teams that are 0-2 and 0-3. So far this, I guess 0-2. They've beaten Wright, they've beaten Hamilton, they've beaten Ottawa. So is this the real Alouettes?
Yeah, that'll be the big question. And I mean, you look at this, I know that the one CFL beat reporter or whatever she is there, Christina Constable, went and put down, yeah, this Alouettes team looks good, but I want to see them play the Winnipegs, the BCs, and the Saskatchewans. Not sure why the Saskatchewans, but okay. Nevertheless, if you're looking at roster injury reports on this one here for the Montreal Alouettes, probably a big name in this one here would be probably Keyshawn Abram. I think he had a few connections last week with Cody Fajardo. He did not practice this week so far. He's got a knee injury of some sort. Another one maybe to keep an eye on is Patrick Davis. The offensive lineman, he's got a lower leg injury. It says he's been practicing fully, but it can't be good when Cody Fajardo's missing offensive linemen. I'm pretty sure I've seen this story before, and it doesn't end well. The one thing I wanted to bring up also quickly with Montreal is the running game on them. We haven't seen a whole lot out of William Stanback this year so far. I think Jeshaun Antry probably has just about as many rushing yards as William Stanback. Is there something to this, or is it the offensive line, or what's going on here with the run game in Montreal, or is it just Jason Moss being Jason Moss? Right?
So just looking at the stats here, because they do release it in PDF form. William Stanback, 25 carries, 112 yards through 2 games so far. He also had like 40-something through the air there as well. In week 1. So, decent usage for William Stanback. 12 carries a game. I think you could use him for a little more than that. I don't actually see Jeshaun Antwi on the rushing leaders list here, so I don't know if he's actually gotten the ball that much so far. I think they've been pretty much running it, actually, with just William Stanback. He's getting the full workload. It's just not a huge workload so far in the season. So I'd like to see them give him the ball more for sure.
I agree. I don't know. I just don't know why they don't believe in running the ball in the East, except for maybe Toronto this year. It's just how it goes. And I mean, I don't know. I think that they're doing. I think the run game's gonna. I wonder when we start getting to a lot more division matchups and some of those more like hard hitting games, which we've had a few. Maybe we see the run game come out in the East, but I wouldn't hold my breath.
So I'll move on over to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers here. Trey has specifically told me he will not talk the defense today because he will pull out a white clipboard and tell Richie Hall exactly what he's doing wrong. So in the sake of time, I'm just going to bring up the offensive line for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I know Ryan talked about it on the drive home on the call-in show a little bit. 7 sacks given up by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Boy, that's been a long time since that's happened. A little bit of thoughts on the sacks given up by the Bombers last week. And is this hopefully this isn't a trend for things to come, Ryan?
Yeah, it is a little bit concerning to see them give up 7 sacks. I think we've seen a couple of games here and there over the years where there's so much talent on the offensive line, but they are getting older, and you have some pieces that are, getting a little bit nicked up here and there. And we've seen them have those games where, they're not helping Zach Collaros out that much. I think, honestly, Collaros doesn't get sacked that much because, while he's not a mobile quarterback, so to say, in terms of a guy that's going to take the ball down and run with it, I think he's one of the best at escaping pressure in the CFL. So I think he himself avoids a lot of the sacks a lot of the times with those rollouts. And credit last week to, the BC Lions just got to him and didn't give him the opportunity to do so. So I think that played into it as well last week, and we'll see what Montreal can do to him.
Trey, you want to get the whiteboard out and show Buck Pierce how to do a proper block?
I mean, Richard's asking for the whiteboard. It's way over there. I'm not going to go grab it. I mean, I think it's just the age catching up with this offensive line, right? We have a Hall of Famers in Bryant and Hardrick and a couple of the other guys, if not Hall of Famers, at least Winnipeg Hall of Famers, or things like guys that are known. But I think the age is just catching up to them right now, and we got a team that has a really good defense, and we saw them win. And also, because the defense on the other side wasn't doing too good, it just got lopsided. If I hear "Ben, don't break" one more time, I'm gonna snap my phone. It's just the biggest thing that annoys me, I get that the field is 30,000 times bigger than an NFL field, but when guys are wide open, that should not happen. You have one more guy. I said I wasn't going to do this. You should have one more guy in coverage than the receivers out there. No, more than that. There should never be a guy wide open. You need to make receivers catch in traffic. Hey, I'm not mad if there's a big bomb, a one-on-one ball, or you throw that slant up the middle and the guy catches it while taking a hit from Big Hill. I'm not getting mad at that. It's when guys are wide open in the flat. I don't get it. But anyway, offensive line, I think it's age. Sorry. I said I wouldn't do it, and Richard hyped me up.
You might have to start a new show after this over on our Discord channel called After Hours with Trey, because I think there's a lot of people that want to see the whiteboard.
I don't profess to be a coaching genius, but I played 25 years of Madden. I played 4 years of high school football. I watch CFL on the regular. I watch NFL on the regular. I'm not saying that I'm Chris Jones or Belichick, but I just don't understand how guys can be so wide open. And it just, I just feel like I could do better in my flip-flops and a beer in my hand. And I might be able to. I don't know.
Honestly, I'd probably say that would make good Discord content after hours with Trey, with him just in a pair of shorts and pointing out a whiteboard. But nevertheless, if you want to know some injuries, though, for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers that you may want to keep an eye out for, Brady Oliveira, thorax injury. He's had that now for 2 weeks. He did play last week. This week he has not practiced yet. So just kind of keep an eye on that one. He might still play, but very hard to say on that. Dalton Schoen also had a hip injury. He didn't practice on Tuesday. He did practice so fully on Wednesday. So I can't see them missing Dalton Schoen this week. The other one also that's back is DeMario Houston. He'll be playing this week. He's back from his non-injury related injury. And same thing also, which is kind of a different one. Adam Bighill is off this week, which is not injury related. I'm sure probably it's Saskatchewan. They're probably figuring out that this is a conspiracy theory to go and play with the salary cap or something like that. But you never know. It's Saskatchewan. We have all sorts of conspiracy theories about the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So with that being said, is Dalton Schoen or Brady Oliveira going to make the fantasy list this week, Ryan?
No, the answer is no. First of all, Brady Oliveira, he hasn't practiced the last 2 days, but he was doubtful to play that game last week against BC, and then they gave the ball to him the entire first drive, and he looked as good as ever. Not much the rest of the game, though, but it seemed like, he's actually fine. This injury is not an issue. So I would still expect him to play this week unless it's gotten worse. I don't have anybody on the Bombers side in my fantasy players to watch on this game, and it's not for a lack of talent. It's for a lack of value for the prices they're at. I mean, Oliveira's at $15,000, Collaros is at $15,000. Half their receivers are $13,000 or more. And, trying to gauge what's a good price total to or what's a good point total to strive for in fantasy to kind of finish top 100 on the week. You got to aim for roughly 130 points with your $70,000 cap. That means, trying to get a guy that scores anywhere between 1.85 to 2 points for every $1,000 you spend. That means you need these guys to start putting up 20-point weeks, 20 to 25-point weeks to be worth the value. And somebody in that group is going to, for sure. I would bank on that somebody is going to have a big game. The problem is you don't know who. You don't know whether it's going to be Dalton Schoen. You don't know whether it's going to be Nick Dembski. You don't know if Rasheed Bailey's going to have himself a good game there, Brady Oliveira. And if you're wrong on which one it is, it's a costly mistake to spend that much money on a guy who doesn't pay. So I'm not looking at any of them in fantasy this week, frankly, on the Winnipeg side of things. But I do have three options I really like for the Alouettes here, and it's the same three I've been mentioning so far through their first two games. Austin Mack is somehow still only $6,800, which is a huge bargain for Cody Fajardo's top target. He's averaged 100 yards a game and picked up 2 touchdowns last week. So week one, I thought maybe it was a fluke, or not a fluke, but not something to be consistently bank on. He looked just as good in week number 3 after the bye week. So I like him again at the price there. I also like Julian Grant at $8,800. He's seemingly the number 2 receiver behind Austin Mack and put up 15.4 points last week. And, I would imagine Mack is going to have a high percentage selection right this week. Everybody's going to jump on him after the big game last week. But if you're trying to stray away from the norm, but stick with that Montreal offense a little bit and hope that Julian Grant has the scoring week, I think that's a viable strategy to have there as well to, bank on separating yourself from the pack, potentially in that category. And quarterback Cody Fajardo. I mean, he put up the highest fantasy total in the CFL last week. I'm very happy I named him my captain against the Ticats. Trey's got the whiteboard out telling us how to fix that Bombers defense. Sorry, Trey, I don't know if Richie Hall is watching this show right now, which means could we see the same this week? They've given up their fair share of yards. They've given up their fair share of touchdowns. Fajardo's got rushing touchdowns in back-to-back games, which helps your fantasy total there. He's expensive, but a lot of options are cheap this week. So, give me Cody Fajardo as a player to watch in fantasy in this game. Those are the three I've got my eyes on. Trey, let's go to you first. Anybody catch your eye?
I'll have to say, too, you have to know, remember, Fajardo knows the Blue Bombers, right? Like, he's played them a few times over the last few years. So if anyone's going to – he's talking to Fajardo right now. There it is. He's like, you guys better stop talking about me, Richie Hall calling Adam. But I think that Fajardo, I don't have him in there, but that's actually a smart play, I guess, with how much he maybe knows and his production. I do have Mac, like you said, on Montreal. And because I have my savings, I'm going to keep riding Dalton Schoen. I think it's going to be worth that one game that maybe he gets back to where he was last year. He's not quite where what he is, but he's also covered. Other teams have no problem covering receivers, it seems like, but whatever. I'll go with that. And I'm staying away from the Blue Bombers bend not break defense. Otherwise, I'm gonna smash something on that Saturday. Game's on Saturday, right? Yeah, Saturday.
So long as it's not the whiteboard, Trey. Nevertheless, I've got on my fantasy list. Let's put it this way: I've got a lot of savings right now. I've got Tuggle, he's cheap. I've got Dylan Mitchell. He's cheap, which he shouldn't be, but he is. I'm going to put Austin Mack on my roster. He's cheap. So I've got 3 cheap guys right off the bat, so I can spend a little bit of money. And I was going to put Dalton Schoen on my list, but because of the injury little thing there with the hip, and I'm starting to get a little nervous, I put Nick Dembski on my list. He's had big games against the Winnipeg or against the Montreal Alouettes in the past. I had to go and really hunt down some stats to find some. Thanks, CFL. Anyways, Nick Dembski's always had a pretty good game, even when he was with the Riders against Montreal. So I'm going to take Dembski, and I'm taking Austin Mack. I wanted to take Cody Fajardo so bad, but I remember last year when he hurt my heart so much, and I just can't do it yet. Head-to-head, I'll do it, but not on fantasy on the game. So, yeah.
Quick question. Do we know if Prukop's in this week for the Blue Bombers?
I imagine he'll play.
Okay.
You're allowed 3 quarterbacks now, so I can't see why not.
You have to have 3 quarterbacks, so you might dress. I was just wondering if you would play only being signed, yesterday?
I mean, it won't take him long to learn the playbook.
Oh, so. That's fair. And he did play in the CFL, so he is in somewhat game shape. No, I'm just curious because you know me and how much I like my 3rd-string quarterbacks on my fantasy team, so that just crossed my mind. But I wouldn't officially say that. But maybe a change happens Saturday. We'll see. Anyway, betting. It's on to me, right?
Yep.
Sure. We'll go with this. -6. Winnipeg rolls into the stadium with the weird little diagonals on the end zones, which I hate, but that's okay because of the racetrack. Montreal +6, over under 48. I am going to do something crazy wackadoodle. I'm taking Montreal +6. You know what? This might be one of those deep psychological things like Mike, where we said in the past, not take the team that I want to win. But I just think I wouldn't be surprised. This is kind of smells a trap game a little bit where maybe Winnipeg's ego got bruised and it can go one of 2 ways where they steamroll Montreal. And I'll take the loss on that one because my team won. Or Montreal comes in saying, hey, we just watched what BC spanked these guys. Maybe we'll try our luck. So I'll go with that. Over under 48. I'll go with the over. Adam, what do you think, buddy?
Well, first question I got, is Winnipeg on bye next week?
I think BC's on bye next week. No? I could be wrong on that. Let me double check.
Yeah, I got to know on that because last time Montreal played Winnipeg when it was bye week next week, Trey might have a point on winning this guess on this one. No, I'm going with Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They just had a terrible game against the BC Lions. Mike O'Shea is going to have those guys jumping out through walls of the plane trying to get into Montreal to beat them. I know it's Montreal. I know it's fun times. And I know it's a Toonie hot dog night. By the way, anybody going to that game, let me know what the hot dogs are like for a Toonie. I really want to know. But nevertheless, no, Winnipeg's going to win this one. And I think they're going to do it rather easily because they're going to beat them by more than a touchdown. The over-under, though, that's a tough one because that's 24 aside. No, I'm going to go on the over on this one, too. Just because I think Winnipeg's going to have a big game. And Montreal has the guns, I think, actually to keep up with them. I just think that the Montreal defense will be on the field just a little bit more than Winnipeg's, and that could be the end of the Alouettes for this one.
It's Toronto with the bye next week. They get their second bye of the season in week 5.
So Winnipeg doesn't play a bye. They'll definitely win this one.
I hate the schedule. Ryan?
I think
probably Winnipeg.
I think I'm going with Montreal on this one, +6 as well. I think I'll take the Bombers probably to still win, or I'm leaning in that direction in terms of pick'em. But with the spread, I'll take the chance on Montreal here because Winnipeg and Montreal play weird football games. They always do. You have that crazy one, which is one of the best moments I've ever seen live. I want to say 2018 when the Bombers came back from 13 points down with a minute and a half left in the game. And then you have that wacky one last season where the Bombers miss the kick or it hits the upright and then it goes to overtime and then they miss the kick and that's the only home loss they had there. Their game in Montreal last season, they only won by 5 as well. So these teams play weird football games. I can think of other ones where the Alouettes have come back to win from a deficit against them. That's all. I think I'm with you, Adam, that I don't see Mike O'Shea's team dropping a dud 2 weeks in a row. But I'm also starting to believe in this Alouettes team a little bit to the point where even if Winnipeg doesn't drop a dud, I think it'll be a close game. So I'll take that. And over under. I'm always inclined to want to say over because like 24-24 is 48 points, right? And it's not a huge total there. So I'll take the over on this. I think these teams are going to get it. I think Winnipeg gets back on track offensively, which should put it in that category.
Richard over in the chat says, if Costco can sell the hot dogs for $2, why can't the Alouettes? Because Costco got it made, man. You go ever have a Costco hot dog, that's where it's at.
These are probably just from Costco. They probably just have, do you think they have somebody just like standing at the terminal there ordering like 1 million hot dogs and rushing them over to the stadium?
Right beside Costco, there's the Percival Molson Stadium put up a Costco right beside it so they can, right. That and also probably get more hot dog talk if you follow us after hours on our, no, I'm kidding, we're not doing that yet, but never know, one day.
Hot dog talk, hey?
Hot dog talk. Hey, it's important things to talk about after hours, for sure. Nevertheless, I think we got to go to our last game of the week, which, there's only 3 this week. It's the BC Lions going all the way to the Hogtown in Toronto, take on the Argonauts. That will be a East versus West showdown for first place in the league. Argonauts are coming off a big victory over Edmonton. BC's coming off just a very impressive victory over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Guys, I'm looking at this one here and saying, gee, BC, I don't know. That team looked really good last week. Vernon Adams, I wanted to talk a little bit about him. He's had that stigma for a while. I mean, we had Derek Taylor on here at one time telling us that good Vernon, bad Vernon, and it seems to always go back and forth. I think good Vernon, is he here to stay? What do you think, Trey?
I just want to say I never clicked that in, so maybe I should tweet at him and say, hey, remember when you were on our podcast and we got in that debate about Vernon Adams? How does he look now? But maybe I'll wait till Monday afternoon. I think we got good at him. I think we got good at him right now. I mean, this is football. I guess anything can change on a dime, right? But I think that I've said this a few times, maybe Rourke going south, slight of a blessing in disguise. You had salary to go elsewhere. Because, I mean, if you keep Rourke, you also did have VA. So you're paying both of them. You have the cap for Whitehead and Katoy and their defense and their offensive line where they just added Michael Couture, right? Like, maybe they didn't have that money if Nathan Rourke stayed up here for $500,600,000, right? Like, so I think VA is doing great. He's got the talented pieces around him. They have an O-line that's amazingly, like, it's hard, even at the age that they're at, it's hard to keep Winnipeg's line at bay with, Jefferson, who's got, he's got ping pong or tennis rackets in his hands, knocking balls down, right? You got, Jake Thomas and those guys there, unreal line. Even the new guys have been pretty impressive. I think BC and everything this offense is doing is tough, but I'm, how high I'm on Toronto, though. I'm trying to convince my head any possible way to take Toronto when we get to that part, Ryan.
Yeah, I've been impressed with VA so far. In the past, it was big play VA. Last season was game manager VA when he came over to BC, and now we get a little bit of something in between. 73% completion rate for him so far, which is, outside of Jarrett Daggy, I guess, is the starter with the highest completion rate because he only threw 9-11 attempts last game when he came in, but among actual starters so far, he's just behind Fajardo with the highest rate in the league, Vernon Adams. He's made smart passes. He's made good passes, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions so far for him. Second in the league in yardage, right behind Trevor Harris there. I'm impressed with what VA has done, and he's done it he missed Lucky Whitehead 1 week. He missed Dominic Rhymes the other week. He's missed Keon Hatcher for 2 so far. He's managed to do this with guys like Alexander Hollins and Justin McInnes being two of his leading receivers. So, credit to VA, full credit to offensive coordinator Jordan Maximick as well. I think he's the best offensive coordinator in the league. He did it with Rourke. He's doing it with VA. A lot of the credit needs to go to him.
You guys both brought up a real interesting fact, though. You look at both of these teams here, both of them don't have an expensive quarterback on their roster, right? I mean, you look at what Hamilton did. They brought in the Bo Levi Mitchell, paid a pile for Bo Levi Mitchell, and they're kind of average at best. And that's putting it nicely. You look at a team like Edmonton. They paid Taylor Cornelius a pretty good amount of money. There ain't much there. Same with Calgary, Jake Mayer. I don't want to talk about that because he was my pick this year. Nevertheless, you look at these teams that are not paying a pile of money for their quarterbacks. Cody Fajardo's probably more on a prove me deal, I would imagine, with Montreal Alouettes. Chad Kelly, we all know the situation there. He's the backup. He's still getting backup money playing for Toronto and BC. I mean, this is the second year that they've done this. First, it was Nathan Rourke not making a whole pile of money, and now it's Vernon Adams, and they seem to have great success with this. And if you're looking at injury front on this, Richard in the chat, you put out a good point. BC had 11 days between this game and their last one. It's like a bye and gives their coordinators that long of a game plan to plan, but also it helps their injury front. Keon Hatcher will be back from injury by the sounds of it. He's practicing with the team. He's also got Dominic Rhymes coming back. He's going to be with the team this week. Suddenly, the BC Lions look rested, poised, and ready to make maybe a little bit of a run here. What are you guys' thoughts, I guess, on the guys coming back there that I talked about, Hatcher and Rhymes? I mean, they've got a plethora of options in BC, don't they?
Oh yeah, there's too many to choose from there. You look at a guy like Hollins or a guy like McInnes who have looked good, and it was nice to see them get an opportunity. Well, how do they fit into that now, right? Like, you got to give the targets back to Rhymes. You got to get Keon Hatcher involved. Now, all of a sudden, what, does Alexander Hollins drop back to the fourth receiver? After last week, it was him and VA all night long, right? Like, he ate the Bombers' defense for dinner, especially on a scoring drive in that second quarter. So it's not a bad thing to have for a team, to have that much depth. So I'll say that for sure.
Trey?
Sorry, yeah, I muted myself. Yeah, I agree. It's, like I said, I'm trying my best to do everything I can to take Toronto in this one, but I don't think I can. And it's if the line was any bigger, maybe with the cover, but yeah, it's this could easily be a field goal. Like, it depends on how it goes, right? Like, if Ouellette and Harris just get going, and the one team in the East that seems to run a little bit controls, but I mean, BC could turn around and do it themselves, right? So, and they have a lot of options with Whitehead and the other speed they have. I don't know. I think that BC is looking really good to win this one and solidify themselves as, easily the number one team in the league after 4 weeks, right?
Yeah, and the other thing also to keep in mind that I like on both of these teams, and I don't know if Ryan will be talking about it right away in fantasy. I'm probably sure he might. The running game on both of these teams. You look over at the Toronto sideline. Well, you know what you got there is AJ Ouellette, who just had a huge game against the Edmonton Elks and wouldn't stay on my roster, even though I tried to make him stay on my roster. Okay, I'll get over that. Nevertheless, AJ Ouellette and Andrew Harris, I mean, that's a good running combination. That's probably rivaling Calgary, I would think, for best running back duo in the league. Even better right now than Calgary, just because of the injury over to Kadeem Carey. But over on the Winnipeg sideline, or on the BC sideline, I mean, Mizzle has looked very good this season as well. The one neat stat, though, that I wanted to bring up here for you guys was the offensive line of the BC Lions. And this is going to be a big battle this week that you may not have thought of. The offensive line of the BC Lions. Anybody want to know how many sacks Vernon Adams has had so far this season? Against?
I have my stats open, so it's 4. Vernon Adams?
Oh. No, Vernon Adams. Had against him, like hit.
Yeah, okay. It says on the stats he's had 4 sacks, doesn't it?
That sounds about right to me.
Let me take a look.
BC's allowed 4 sacks.
The CFL literally just made a post here. What do you call it? Oh, sorry. That was in week 3. Last week, not a single sack for Vernon Adams.
Oh, okay, because I was like on the league stats, it says or was that just week 3 stats?
Just week 3 stats, yeah.
Oh, see, I thought that was total stats. That's not bad.
The stats PDF I sent you guys earlier is for total stats through 3 weeks.
Oh, is it total stats? Yeah, it says 4 sacks allowed against BC.
Yeah, that sounds right to me.
Okay, I was like, you guys are making me lose my mind.
Nevertheless, CFL sent out something here and it's like 0 sacks allowed, and I was like, what? Nevertheless, it must have been for last week. I guess they didn't let one against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, which do I need to remind you of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers defense?
Yeah.
I mean, so you look at this battle here coming up here in Toronto. I mean, they've got a depth of linebackers to use against Vernon Adams. They've got a defensive line that's pretty darn scary. And it's going to be a big battle against that offensive line versus the defense to see who wins out in that one. Ryan, any comments on either the Toronto defense or on BC's offensive line?
Yeah, I mean, BC's offensive line has done real good this year. They lost some big pieces in the offseason, so I thought maybe they would take a bit of a step back, but I think they've done good, and I think Toronto's got a pretty stellar defense of their own right there. So I'm excited for the battle in the trenches just as much as you are.
No, I agree. I'm going to flip it around the other way. Toronto's only given up 1 sack. They played 1 less week, of course, but, that's pretty impressive too.
And I mean, Chad Kelly has just been impressive, leaving the pocket, moving around, and doing whatever he's got to do to avoid getting sacked as well. I think I'm going to switch over to fantasy here because, there's this game here is probably going to be a doozy for some players to watch, I would think, right, Ryan?
Yeah, I just want to touch on, and this is going to lead into fantasy a little bit here as well, on Chad Kelly, because you mentioned he's looked good so far through 2 games. This is the test for Kelly so far. He has played the Edmonton Elks and the Hamilton Tiger Cats, 2, I'm sorry, folks, awful football teams. The Ticats defense and the Elks defense both, haven't been great. And Kelly's looked good in those. He hasn't lit it up with a 300-yard passing game, but, respectable. He hasn't hurt the team, certainly, and he does have that running ability. But now he faces a Lions defense that, on average, through 3 weeks, has only given up an average of 160 passing yards a game, which is incredible through 3 weeks so far. So I think this is going to be a real, true, tough test for Chad Kelly. And that's why, as impressed as I have been with him so far this season, he doesn't end up in the fantasy players to watch for me this week because I'm staying away from him against that BC defense a little bit. Speaking of the Lions defense, I do have them in the fantasy players to watch, and they are my top defense pick this week. They've put up 15 points and 16 points in their last 2 games, which is huge for a defense, including holding the Bombers to 6 points and 7 sacks, like you mentioned already, Adam. And like I said, they're still facing a somewhat unproven quarterback in Chad Kelly. Like I said, he's looked good so far, but against 2 teams that haven't looked great. And that's his 2nd and 3rd start in the CFL so far. So I think he can make mistakes. He threw a pick 6 against the Elks last week. I could see him throwing a couple turnovers against this Lions defense here also. So defenses aren't going to hit that 2 points per $1,000 value probably, but I think the Lions have the ability to put up the best defensive total on the week. So I like the Lions defense this week. I like the running backs on both sides of the ball in this one. AJ Ouellette for Toronto, he's averaging 15.5 carries per game, which is a pretty solid number even with Andrew Harris there. That was something last year. Like, he became a good fantasy player down the stretch because of his receiving ability, but he didn't get the carries. Now he's getting the carries. Hasn't really caught that many passes yet, but we know he has that ability to do so from what we saw last year. And if BC's defense has a weak point, I guess it's the run game, the run defense. Like, their passing defense is so strong, maybe you do need to lean on a guy like Ouellette to open it up. Put up 3 touchdowns last week. That's not sustainable. It's not going to happen again this time, I would imagine. But nice to see him getting those goal line looks as well, because that was one of my biggest trepidations with going that route in fantasy. But so I'm all in on AJ Ouellette for this week. Taquan Mazzell on the other side of the ball, his price has risen. So it's getting a little bit out of the price range there, but and only 5 points last week for him, which was a bit disappointing, but he's averaged 6.5 yards per carry so far this season. I still think he's one of the better running back options because he doesn't split the workload with anybody else. He is the only running back there in BC on the active game day roster. So yeah, I think those are two of the better running back options of the week. A couple of receivers in this game I like as well. I'm sticking with Cam Phillips as a recommendation for the third game in a row here. I feel like everybody's going to flock to David Unger after he had a long touchdown last week and put up, 15, 16 points. I think Dejon Brissett did as well. But those guys, I think, are going to rotate in and out of that Canadian spot if Curly Gittins Jr. is back and ready to go this week from injury. So I'm going to stick with Cam Phillips. He's only $3,700. He should still get a starting role. And he was one of the top 5 value plays in fantasy last week at his price at that point when he put up 8.1 points. So I like to bank on that value there again. And speaking of value, if you can call it a value play, I don't know, but Keon Hatcher for the Lions, if he is back from injury, is only $9,900, which for a guy who put up a 1,000-yard season last year is a pretty low price. It's a little bit scary because you don't know what his workload is going to be in his first week back, but I think it is a guy that I would potentially recommend taking. I think Hollins is too high in price now with all these other guys back from injury. And I like taking a chance on the lower priced option among the top receivers in BC. Those are my fantasy players to watch for Toronto and BC. Trey, who you got?
I went with Phillips as well to try to save some money, but it was tough to go against. Where's my stats here? With one less game played, the leading rushing touchdown leader, AJ Ouellette, it's hard to go against him. Oh, and by the way, I took the quarterback to Chad Kelly, who's tied for leading rushing touchdowns. And like I said, only playing 2 games. So, yeah, like I said, I'm going to keep riding that Chad Kelly is the number 1 quarterback in the league until they prove me wrong. So, sorry, Rich, I don't think he's going to get scraped off the field. I think maybe BC will win. I still haven't fully decided. So, take your time talking fantasy, Adam. But I think it'll be close. Adam, what do you like?
Yeah, it might be pretty close this game too. I'm going to look at that after, but right at the moment, I think that I'm going to be hoping for Chad Kelly to get scraped off the turf because I'm taking the BC Lions defense. I think that they probably are the stronger defense. I think their secondary is a little bit better, and I just don't know if that offensive line had some injuries at the beginning of the year for the Argonauts. I wonder if they're quite 100% or not. So give me the BC Lions defense. And also I took one more BC Lion and I haven't taken him for a very long time. That's the quarterback, Vernon Adams Jr. I'm going to try him out. Again, if I got to pay $15,000 for Fajardo, I'll pay $15,000 for Vernon Adams and say that he's going to have a good game. He's done nothing wrong. He can't seem to do no wrong this year. He's had some pretty good games. He'll have another one, I hope, against Toronto. But I don't think their defense is going to stop AJ Ouellette for the whole game. So I'm going to take AJ Ouellette as well. I'm going pretty strong in this game. I don't know why I'm taking Ouellette, mainly because I didn't pick him last week, and I'm still annoyed about that probably more than anything. But nevertheless, I think AJ Ouellette will have another good game. That running game in Toronto has been very good so far. So let me go and take AJ Ouellette as well.
All right, that's the fantasy picks in this game. Over to betting, Trey.
Yeah, sorry, I zoned out there. Betting minus, what did I have it here? Sorry guys, I was messing around here. Minus 2.5 BC, the road favorites. Toronto plus 2.5, over under 47.5. Oh, this one's on Monday too, so we do have the 1 hour before kickoff rule because I probably am going to change this a couple times, right? But I'll go Toronto. I'll go Toronto plus 2.5. I'll probably change it, but I just shoot. How many bad words am I allowed to say on this? Is it one of those like the movie thing? I could say 3 before keep it PG. I'll take the over 100%.
Trey, we don't have an angry elk like some of the other podcasts.
Yeah,
You
47
think
and a
I
half.
edit this thing? You think I'm going to edit those and bleep them out? No. So
Nah, it's the way it stands. Over 47 and a half. This one's haunted me. This one's haunted me all week. I was hoping the line spread. I was hoping a lot of people took BC and maybe grew it a little bit, but it seems actually a lot of people were pretty even. I think I checked the pick'em. It was pretty close to 50-50 in this game. Maybe not. I don't know. I'll take Toronto. I'll take Toronto right now. Ryan, whatever, man. You just tell me.
I see. Originally, I was leaning towards Toronto on this one as well because BC, I feel like on the road out west, east. There we go. West. Yeah, one division. West. The West division. BC on the road out east, I feel like they often struggle with that. But I think somebody in the chat earlier mentioned that BC has 11 days. Yeah, Richard mentioned 11 days between this game and their last game, so they have a lot of time to prep in between and get ready for that. I think they're more proven at quarterback than Kelly is. I think VA is there. I think the defense for BC has just been incredible so far. I wonder if they can do it again against Toronto this week. They did it to Winnipeg last week, but I think I'll take the Lions to win this one on the road here. Also means I differ from Trey, so maybe I can get ahead of him in the standings there unless he switches his pick, in which case then it will be known that Trey's following me if we get it right. So I like that as well. Points total 47.5. See, Toronto averages 37.5 points a game themselves, but BC only gives up an average of 7. One of those has to change, I would imagine, in this football game. I think the offenses are both pretty good on this one, but they're also both pretty good defenses. I've gone over on the other two games already this week, I think, right? So give me one under game a week, and I'm going to say this one.
Okay. Yeah, I think we agreed on everything so far, Ryan, and then this one we disagreed on both, right? So this will be a deciding factor. Adam, you're the tiebreaker. Watch, you're going to agree with one of us and go with the other one, aren't you?
Absolutely. Just to mess with all you. I don't know yet here. Let's see. First things first, I think Rick Campbell, as the new defensive coordinator as well, will be throwing some pretty exotic looks over at Chad Kelly. So to me, I like the BC Lions in this one for that reason, just because I don't think Chad Kelly has as much experience as Rick Campbell does in throwing some weird defenses at people. So he's done a good job so far. The BC Lions defenses look pretty stacked. The Toronto defenses look pretty stacked. So this is going to be a battle of defenses as far as I'm concerned. And there is going to be a pretty good offense on the field as well for both teams. So it's going to be just a fun game. That's all I could say about this one. But no, I'm going to go with the BC Lions to win this one. And I'm going to go on the under on this one because I think for the first half, it's going to be just a struggle. Because I think both teams are going to have to try to feel each other out for a while. And the second half might be exactly like the Rider game last week. It might be where the second half it just explodes. Although I just don't think so in this one. I think that BC is going to make some adjustments and Chad Kelly's going to be down for the count. And that's going to be the end of it. So BC, and I'll take the under.
If that happens again with the second half explosion, I'm never taking the under again. By the way, you mentioned Rick Campbell. It's Ryan Phillips, the defensive coordinator. Rick Campbell's the head coach.
Yeah, it's been one of those days. What can I say?
And Richard, 79% Manitoba education system. That is close to 50-50, man. If you ever went to school in Manitoba, man, you'd know 79%. That's close to 50-50.
Hey, Trey, you just got a paper. This is an educated guess from you now.
It's not a math one, man. I stay away from math.
Still educated.
Like, all my gambling does all the calculations for me, man. Who needs it?
One of the things one of you mentioned that this game was on a Monday as well. This is a weird week from a fantasy perspective, and this game plays into that also, right? Where we've got one game Friday, one game Saturday, one game Monday. So we're not getting depth charts out really until like weigh and final injury reports until after those other games have played. So keep that in mind with fantasy options as well, I guess. Don't lock yourself into a problem where you get to Monday and your roster options are limited as well, just based on the weird week setup. Although I guess all the weeks so far have been kind of like that with no double headers there.
Can I just one point on this game? I think it's an absolute shame it's on Monday. I think I get the whole if you need time. They had they have a soccer game earlier, like yesterday, Canada and somebody, and then they have the TFC game on Saturday. So I understand the whole whatever. But oh man, could you imagine Sunday at 3 or 4? Like prime time. There's no major golf tournament on this weekend that I could think of. There's nothing, there's baseball, but there's no hockey, basketball. Like that would have been prime time, wouldn't it have been, guys? Even Sunday night, that's so a shame that it has to be Monday. But it sucks that Toronto, the Argos get second fiddle, kind of.
They always do. Sadly, they always.
I was actually surprised. My buddy was at the Canada game. 13,000 is his estimate, and there were 17,000 at the Argos home opener. But TFC does regularly sell that place out. So
okay.
But and it was also some no-name Caribbean team that I can't think of. So it's not like it was Canada, US. If 13,000 showed up for that, that'd be pretty sad.
Right. Well, let's wrap things up by taking a look at our CFL Fantasy League matchups and results here as well. First of all, in the CFC Draft League, our season-long league, led off by that fantasy draft preseason. I did put up the highest score of the week with 104.8 points this past week. I see you mocking me there, Trey. Great performances across the board. Whole team, even Malik Henry, tore his ACL, still put up 19 points before doing so. One last hurrah before I dropped him from the roster. But you had the second highest score of the week, Trey, with 82 points, led by one AJ Ouellette was your big point scorer there. And Mark Leggio with 11 points in the kicking game.
That's why I dropped Paredes, boys. I couldn't drop Leggio. A lot of field goal opportunities when he got slow Levi Mitchell out there, not hitting a pass.
Adam, you had 60.2 points on the week. Cody Fajardo had nearly half of that. Any comments from you on your week?
Yeah. Why did I let go of Alexander Hollins again?
Yeah, now I'm just tempted to pick up anybody you drop, really. And Mike had himself a rough week with 56 points. Austin Mack being half of his point total pretty much there. A couple of bombers in his lineup not faring too well in this past week. So overall on the season, I am in first place. Mike is in second. But Trey, you are just 12 points behind him. Adam, you got some catching up to do, but you did make some great roster moves this week. Adam opening the wallet a little bit there, bringing in Trevor Harris, Trey Odoms-Dukes, Boris Beatty, among others. So we'll see if that plays a role in upcoming fantasy weeks. Guys, I did it.
You forgot one there. Reddy Paredes is also now part of Team Adam.
Immediately after Trey dropped him. Yep.
Exactly.
And I have officially dropped my first round pick, Taylor Cornelius, because that did not work out well. And Jarrett Nagy is part of a team, Ryan, going forward, as well as Cole Tucker, because Malik Henry is out. So I'm hoping he gets some reps there from the Stampeders. A couple of other moves made around the league as well. Mike dropping Bo Levi Mitchell to pick up Tyree Adams was the major addition there. In the what is this CFL podcast fantasy league? The three of us
dropped Bo. He dropped Bo. Is he dressed or is he injured reserve?
He's 6-game injured list.
Huh. Oh, okay. Nice to know.
Yeah. Bo is out.
I can't believe nobody picked up Matthew Schills.
Trey picked him up
last
week.
Oh, you got last week. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. Trey jumped the gun on that one. You got in on it first.
I knew it was coming, but
yeah, there we go. In the CFL Podcast Fantasy League, we're playing alongside a number of other podcasters there as well. My good week continued. I put up the highest score of the week. I did beat Zach from Bonfire Sports to pick up a win in that game. Trey, you beat Joe from Rouge, White, and Blue. You picked up a win this week as well. Adam, you lost to the defending champ, super fan Mike. I'll save you the misery of talking about that one. The darn save button. If only you still. I don't think you would have won anyways if you put AJ Ouellette in your lineup.
No, I added it up because Mizzle off of it and AJ Ouellette on it would have made enough. I would have been up by 1 point.
Are you sure? Maybe things have changed. Okay.
I've counted it out a few times now. I would have been up by 1 point on Superfan Mike.
Wow.
And yeah, this close.
Good to know, folks. There is a save button, and you should click it when you edit your lineups. And we'll see if Adam has learned that this week when he faces the X's and Argos crew in fantasy this week. Trey, you've got Steph from Go Stamps Go, and I am facing Joe from Rouge, White, and Blue. So make sure you check out all those other great shows from around the Canadian Football Podcast Network at CF Pod Network on Twitter. There for all of those. In the CFC Discord League, head-to-head league there this past week, I beat Adam. You wouldn't have caught me anyways if you in that one. I just crushed you. So that was fun. Mike did lose to Discord user FM Fan 2014, and Trey, you lost to Discord user Josh M in your matchups this week. So I'm the only one in the crew to register a win from this past week. Adam, you're facing sandwiches this week. Mike's facing Josh Shem. Trey, you're going down. I took down Adam with ease last week. It's you this week. Another easy victory.
No, man. I'm moving the infield in. I'm letting the rookie come in to pitch. We're good, boys. We're good. No worries.
You're not letting the third baseman try to pitch.
Yeah, it's fine. We'll make it happen. Just nothing but inside heaters on Ryan, and he'll thaw you up. But I don't want to do baseball analogies. I think I did that in the group chat earlier, so I stuck with it.
I don't understand any of those.
I'm coming though. I'm coming though. I was quite impressed with my totals last week. I won the. Sorry, I zoned out when you guys are talking. I won the the podcast one, but I lost the Discord one, right?
Yeah.
I'm coming.
You're coming, yeah. So, lots of fantasy fun coming along throughout the season as well. Again, mentioned it earlier, I'm putting a lot of different things out in our fantasy channel in the CFC Discord community. So if you want more insight on that, I've got a roundup every week of the highest scoring players and the highest points per $1,000 as well, so you can see who the best value plays are. Also try to put out a little thing each week to find the best diamonds in the rough that nobody's really picking at each position to give you an edge there. So lots of things to come there if you want an edge in fantasy over your competitors there. So check out the CFC Discord community for that. And again, more bonus content that we don't have here on a regular Wednesday night show. But I think that is it for tonight's show. So somehow, guys, with only 3 games on the schedule, we did go an hour and a half again. I am not the least bit surprised by that. I just enjoy talking CFL football with you guys every single week. It's a lot of fun. And let's get into wrapping up the show here, though, and see. We'll be back again next week. Same time, same place. Week 5 preview. We'll have 4 games to talk about that time, and we'll do all the same fun things we've done here tonight. If you want to follow us on social media, we're on Twitter at CF Countdown Pod, on Facebook.com/CF Countdown Pod there as well. You can find me on Twitter at CooperTrooper42 as well if you want to see what I've got going on there. I tweet occasionally. Normally it's just talking about why Bo Levi Mitchell is still a starter, but I don't have that conversation topic anymore. So got to pick a new guy to put in the Hall of Fame. I'm still looking for one. It can't be Nathan Rourke this year. So let me know who my next Hall of Fame campaign could be. I got some options this week. Is Tyree Adams? Is it Jared Daggy? Who's going to be the next Ryan champion here for that? You can follow Mike on Twitter at Mike Garrell. He wasn't here tonight. He's doing stuff with the NHL draft. But he should be back again next week, I believe. Trey, you're next up on the list. What you all got going on?
Yeah, you can find me at Twitter at Trey Harnesslink if you just want some annoying horse racing stuff. I have my horse racing podcast Wednesdays and Saturdays. I don't remember the times because I do them in Eastern time. I don't know, whatever. Just follow me on Twitter and you'll see it, boys. And Yeah, I should start putting more of my harness racing stuff in there because I had a nice couple winners this week, and all y'all could have cashed in on a couple ant farms, but I'm greedy and I keep it for myself. Adam, people want to see all the amazing farming stuff and to learn not how to get hay wet. Where do they meet you, bud?
Well, they can find me at Adam Stewart 1, or hey, take a look at the Discord channel. We got our own farming part now because, we're cool like that. Nevertheless, yeah, lots of haying going on right now. Going to be doing a lot more of that coming up here soon. Lots of little things going on around the farm or around with the CFL that I'm talking about, or, well, almost anything really. But hey, make sure that you check me over at Adam Stewart 1. I think I even posted a picture of a tractor with air conditioning today. So, that's luxury for me. So, nevertheless, come on over and let's talk hay.
I'm in. Sounds great. Yeah. I've got to learn for all my future farming endeavors here in the middle of Winnipeg.
See, Trey needs to come over and learn about hay because that way there he knows what kind of fuel to feed the horse to make the horse go fast.
I could, but I absolutely don't. Like, that's the part of the industry I stay away from. Like, I like my little box or watching on my chair. Like, I don't want to be near a horse. I'm whatever.
That's
like that. Also on the farm, we have very few bets on anything.
Yeah,
it's true too. But they're smart animals. I respect them. And these standardbreds not as bad as thoroughbred, but they are shoving each other after the football game. Let's just say that's some of their mindsets are to attack each other because especially thoroughbreds. But oh my God, I do not want to be near a horse after he lost a race because that is not fun.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to the weekly crop bets in the farming channel in the Discord, Adam. What are the Adam crop bets?
I'm leaving. Guy, I can't with that one.
I can keep running with it because it might be the best joke I've got. Let's see. I mentioned where you can find us on social media. We've talked about Discord a lot already. If whatever podcast platform you're listening on, we always appreciate if you do the fun things such as like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, share the show with your friends. Help us grow the show. We always appreciate that. Thanks to everybody who joined us live tonight or is tuning in after the fact. On behalf of Adam and Trey, I'm Ryan saying thank you for listening. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.